All right, folks, thank you for joining us back here at the ever so popular No Soundbites Allowed on the Exceptional Conservative Network, one of your favorite podcasts that are out there on YouTube, at least until they shadow ban us and then you can't find us anymore. And up until that day and even beyond, we're going to still be here. And we're going to continue to keep putting out this information for you because it's important and that's what we need to do. And we have the First Amendment right to do so. Please support us. Subscribe, like, share, let people know. And if you can, donate $1 or $2 because that helps us keep the lights on. And also, more importantly, please be sure to make, if you're in the Binghamton area, drop by our friends at the Belmar Pub or the Park Diner. That is not a paid advertisement. They're just our friends. We enjoy their show. We enjoy their establishments, food and drink, and the company there. And I think you will too. If you do drop by, let them know Mike Voss sent you. So as I mentioned, we've been going over a lot in the second hour here. We've been talking a lot about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the way she wants to make up laws, just make up stuff. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just saying it. And that's just upsetting. I mean, that's one of the biggest misuses of Congress. That's one of the biggest misuses of the free speech. And putting it out there on Twitter saying, well, no, she feels like she's right. And so that means she's right. No, it doesn't. Facts are still facts. And you still got to prove things. So I wanted to go and talk about something else, though. And I wanted to bring up gun silencers. Now, obviously, there's been a big deal about the Virginia Beach shooting, which is first a Second Amendment issue. And I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. And every time that there's a mass shooting, there's always a big argument about, well, is it okay to have this type of gun or that type of gun? Now, in the Virginia Beach shooting, what we see is that this is an individual who's disturbed, undeniably disturbed. Something is wrong with him because he made the decision to go out there and hurt innocent people for no reason. And there should never be, no one should ever come to the conclusion that because no matter how bad your life is, that your only answer is to go out and hurt innocent people. That is wrong. I denounce that. I tell you right now, I don't care whether you're a fanatical religious person or you're just a fanatic in general or you're deranged, whatever the reason is. And no one knows what that reason is. But whatever your reason, if you come to the conclusion that means I should go out and hurt innocent people, stop right there. No, you shouldn't. Do something else. Go find some help. Ask someone. Go to someone, get counseling, talk to a priest or your religious figure, and they should all come back and none of them should say, yes, hurting innocent people is a great idea. If they did, you're going to the wrong source, go somewhere else. But speak to somebody. Don't go forward. Don't do that. Because the problem isn't the gun. It's the person who makes that decision. The problem with the Virginia Beach shooting wasn't the type of firearm used, which we know wasn't a AR-15. It wasn't a semi-automatic rifle, otherwise known as an assault weapon, according to Democrats who have never fired a gun and have no idea what they're talking about. We're talking about people like Senator Dianne Feinstein, who has no clue about firearms whatsoever. The woman doesn't even know how to hold, you can look it up on YouTube, she doesn't even know how to hold a rifle because she holds it with her finger on the trigger. It's like she's the deadliest person in the world. And I should have pulled up that image, but I didn't know I was going to mention it. But anyway, and you can see it on YouTube. It's crazy. She's just dangerous. But one of the things that we've heard about the Virginia Beach shooting, because there was a silencer that was used, which to my knowledge in mass shootings has never happened before. And John the Intern, let me ask you, let me double check with you here. Do you know off the top of your head at the moment, is there any other case where you've heard of a silencer being used in a mass shooting?
No, I haven't heard of any time for a silencer to be used. And I mean, it's a really long process to even get a silencer too. If I remember correctly, you have to go through certain licensing, so I don't think...
Well, that's part of the facts.
Yeah.
And the facts are that to be able to get a license, first of all, having a silencer, or sometimes they're called suppressors, because they don't silence a firearm. It's not like a movie where you can't hear it. In fact, it takes a regular gun from being the sound of a gun, which is about 160 decibels, and it reduces that to 130 decibels, which means it sounds like a thunderclap. So it is still very clear that it is a gun being fired, unless you think lightning happens indoors. So it's not like it's suddenly like a movie. This isn't a James Bond film where you can run around with a silencer and shoot in the middle of, or even in John Wick, John Wick 2, which I'm not spoiling anything. It's in the trailers, but John Wick is walking through a crowd of people, and so is Common, and they're shooting silenced pistols at each other, and no one else, and there's a whole crowd of people who are standing around them, and no one reacts. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an old movie anyway. It's like 5 years old at this point.
Well, that doesn't make it old.
Yeah.
I'm talking to someone who's in his 20s. He thinks, 5 years is old. Okay. But anyway. But more importantly, yeah, so that's the movie version. And that's where, it seems that's where most Democrats or people who are against the Second Amendment, they seem to get their idea of firearms from whatever they saw in the latest movie. You can look at that. They have silencers on there. They can fire in the middle of a crowd and no one will know about it. Are you stupid? No, of course not. That's a movie. That's why guns have endless bullets. You can shoot off you have a revolver and it fires 15 times because, who needs to reload? No, it's stupid. But that being said, and I believe it's correct that there is no case of a mass shooting where a silencer has been used before. And it is true that silencers are not illegal. They are not illegal. Let me make that very clear. Say it a third time, because I know there's some member of plot that's out there right now, or Citizen Action, that is saying, you just don't know what you're talking about, Mike. No. Yes, I do. Silencers are legal. They are defined under the National Firearms Act of 1934, NFA 1934. Look it up if you don't believe me. That silencers are allowed, just like you are allowed to have a machine gun. You are allowed to have a tank. You are allowed to have a flamethrower. Though you can get those if you have a federal Title I license. With a federal Title I license, you are allowed to have them. They are all legal. It is a little bit harder. Actually, it's a lot harder to get it. And with a suppressor, it takes, you have to have $200 just to apply for the license, on top of a lot of background checks and everything else. But you can get it. And there are roughly 1.3 million people in the United States right now that do, in fact, have a silencer. Now, this is data that's actually about 2 years old. But I wanted you to know, according to the Free Beacon and according to the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, there are approximately 1.3 million people who own silencers registered in the United States as of 2017, February. And at this moment, there's expected to be closer to about 1.5 million. That's an estimate. So they do exist. They are legal. They aren't silent, unless you think a thunderclap is silent. And if you do, you need a hearing aid. So, and I think that John's not listening now because I thought that was funny. Anyway, that being said, so we know that they exist. Now the question is, of course, because he used it in the shooting, there is now a debate. And of course, that debate comes from our friends over at the Huffington Post. Are you shocked yet? Of course it comes from the Huffington Post. The Huffington Post is saying, quote, debate over gun silencers resurfaces following Virginia Beach shooting. Actually, there really wasn't a debate about this, but okay. They said this on June 5th. And their idea is that silencers are deadly. They're horrible. They're terrible. You have to get rid of them because they will kill you. In fact, if you were to go over to the Giffords Law Center, which is also a left-leaning think tank, an organization to prevent gun violence, which is basically an anti-Second Amendment organization, So you know who you're dealing with here. They say that silencers are inherently dangerous devices that criminals could use to suppress the sound of gunfire and mask muzzle flash. These deadly accessories have been effectively regulated since the 1930s and would make it difficult for people who are nearby to identify the sound of gunshots and locate an active shooter. Okay, let's get back to reality here. Again, unless you think a thunderclap is silent, a suppressor or a silencer is not silent. This is not the movies. This is not John Wick. Quite simple. If you think firing any firearm is like what you saw in John Wick, well, actually, John Wick is pretty good. Think of James Bond, then you're wrong. If you think the sound that they make comes out of a movie like Hollywood makes, you're wrong. If you're watching movies to get your idea of what a firearm is, stop. You've made a mistake. You're wrong. These are facts. You may not feel like that it's wrong. It's wrong. And that's what I would suggest to the Giffords Law Center and to many of the politicians. Stop watching movies. Go out to a gun range and actually talk to people and learn something about this, because this is wrong. To say that silencers are inherently dangerous is like saying that your Toyota is inherently dangerous. That's like saying your steak knife is inherently dangerous. That's like saying this lighter is inherently dangerous. This lighter will start a fire. If I have a can of hairspray, it becomes a modified flamethrower. It could light anything on fire with this. You know what? Does that make this inherently dangerous? Is your steak knife inherently dangerous because it cuts? You could make that argument. It would be silly and foolish, but you can make that argument. A fork is inherently dangerous if you have the intent. Again, it goes back to intent. But let's really think about this. So they want to have the debate about this. And here's the thing that I find really interesting about this. And again, if you go back to the ATF article, there are 44 silencer-related crimes every year. That's it. And you might say to yourself, that doesn't sound right. No, it's right. On average, every year, 44. And you're wondering, well, that must be a lot. There are over 16,000 forms of or events involving a gun in the nation. Not necessarily gun violence, but just someone holding a gun, showing a gun, pistol whipping someone, whatever the case. So there's about 16,000 incidents in any given year. 44 involve a silencer. Can you imagine that? Okay, you doing what that works out to? 0.003%. 0.003%. That's how bad it is. And they're talking about, well, we have to ban this because that's it. There are silencers and everyone is going to die. You know what? If you banned the 1.3 million silencers in the nation, 1.5 billion, and everyone couldn't have them, it wouldn't make a difference. It doesn't do anything. There's one mass shooting that occurred because someone had one silencer. We're not even sure where he got it from. We don't know if it was legal or not. That still hasn't been determined yet. But let's say we got rid of it. He had two firearms. The problem wasn't because he had a silencer that everyone died. It was because he was crazy. I mean, can I make it that simple for you? It was because he was crazy. The crazy guy went and killed a bunch of innocent people. He made the decision somewhere in his mind. The decision came up and he said, hey, the only answer I have is to go out and hurt innocent people. He quit his job, realized, oh, you know what? If I quit my job, I can't go back there. So I can hurt innocent people. So he went back and hurt innocent people immediately. And it wasn't, oh, well, because the silencer, it's not because he had the silencer and people couldn't figure out where he was. It was because he had been working there for 6 years. He knew every room. He was able to barricade himself against the police when he had a gun battle with the police. He knew where he could go so they couldn't come around and flank him, so that they couldn't take him out easy. He knew what he was doing. He knew where he was going. He had an intimate knowledge of the location. It wasn't because they couldn't hear the bullets, which they could. Even witnesses at the event knew that something was happening. They heard it. They heard them firing. It wasn't normal. They knew that there were gunshots going off. But they were shocked. And here's the problem. It's not the silencer. Look at every single report and every witness who has survived or been involved in any mass shooting anywhere in the world. Again, anywhere in the world, because America ranks 66 in the world, not number one, 66 in the world. And you ask anyone who survived this kind of mass violence, especially where a gun is involved, and they will tell you, and again, I'm talking about whether they use a knife, a car, a bomb. The first thing that happens, and the thing that makes it so dangerous, nobody knows what's going on for the first couple of minutes. That's why it's so vital that these incidents always stop when someone with a firearm engages the bad guy. The bad guy doesn't stop until they are killed or someone engages them and they give up. They don't just go out there and they say, and I'm asking you this, John. I'll ask it again because you're a college student. I'm not. I don't even have a college degree, believe it or not. Oops, wrong thing. Let me ask this very simply. John the Intern, has there been an incident of a mass shooting where the person just gave up? Just, shot a bunch of people, walked over and said, I give up.
Wasn't it the movie theater shooting with The Dark Knight? Didn't he try to just go to his car afterwards?
He went to his car, he didn't give up.
No. That's the only time I could ever think of.
Okay. And there's the point, folks. They don't just walk on in. This isn't Hollywood. It's not Seven, where Kevin Spacey walks in and goes, please arrest me. I just killed somebody. No, it doesn't work like that. This isn't Hollywood. I don't understand why so many Democrats and so many of the, and I shouldn't say Democrats, a lot of the progressives, the Democratic Socialists, the far left, why do they always promote this idea, like the Huffington Post, that somehow if we were simply to just pay attention to the Hollywood movies, we would be able to resolve everything. That somehow criminals, because we put out a new law, would become Kevin Spacey and show up and just give themselves up in droves. That somehow they would stop using these weapons. That they would stop misusing them. That they would suddenly no longer have violent tendencies, which has never been proven true. Matter of fact, I think you have an article coming out about this, about the red flag legislation.
Yep.
And let me ask you, John, the intern, in your article, did you notice, were there any states that didn't have a mass shooting?
And all?
Yeah.
There were a couple. It was Alaska, where there's so just like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Of those, so there were 7, I believe it was.
Yeah, 7 or so.
Now, of those 7, let me ask you, did any of them have a red flag law?
I do not believe so.
Right. But if I remember the research right, I saw the article. It was Delaware in 2018, after the Florida, the shooting in Florida, Parkland, after the Parkland shooting in Florida, that's when Delaware added their mass shooting, their red flag legislation. And wasn't it in Delaware that right after they put that in, they had a mass shooting?
Yeah.
They had gone from 2007 to 2018, no mass shootings. They put in the red flag law, suddenly they had a mass shooting.
Yep.
And here's the thing that I want to say about that, folks. If it was as simple as just breaking the law to prevent a criminal from doing something that was bad, guess what? There wouldn't be muggings. There wouldn't be murder. We have a law. It says we have every religion I know of says thou shalt not kill. In some way, shape, or form, they say thou shalt not kill. You shall not commit murder. We have laws against murder. Murder in the 1st degree, murder 2nd degree, murder in 3rd degree. Murder is a crime. Did you see criminals stop because we have the law? Do you know what the homicide rate is in Chicago? I mean, really, I do it all the time on the show. I show the homicide rate. Have you noticed that they don't seem to care too much that there's a law? And by the way, every single law you could possibly imagine about gun control exists in Chicago. And Chicago leads the nation always in the number of incidents involving a gun and the number of homicides. Right now, there are over 187 people who have been killed in Chicago since the beginning of 2019. There are over, I believe it's 2,000 people who have been injured in Chicago because of a firearm. They have every single gun control bill that has ever been created or even considered in the nation. And you're telling me that we have to get rid of silencers? Let me ask you, if we got rid of every single silencer in the nation, all 1.5 million of them, out of the 350 million guns that exist, the 1.5 million of them that are registered with the United States government, with the special license that is required and the background check that is required to have a silencer, the extra law enforcement involvement in this. And if you got rid of every single one of them, and all 44 cases of silencers were never seen again, would that make anyone safer in the United States, or more importantly, anyone safer in Chicago? That's a math problem for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that would make anyone better?
No.
Can you do the quick math for me? If you were to take 44 and divide it by 350 million, what number do you get?
350 million?
Yeah, 350 million. Yeah. I want to figure out, since we know, according to the ATF, the proof is that 44 silencer-related crimes happen each year. So, the question is, since we know that's 44, we know there's 350 million people in the United States, your chance of being involved in a silencer-related event is
0.0000125.
Okay, so I don't even know what that works out to. It is a ridiculously small number, but I want to say it again. So your chance, you watching this right now, your chance of being involved in an incident where a silencer will be used is
less than 0.000000001%.
Wow. That is just an immense number of zeros there. I mean, it's just ridiculously small numbers.
It's incredibly unlike. I mean,
I can get struck by lightning 3 times. More likely to get struck by lightning 3 times.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's impossible because obviously.
No. There's a point. There's 125 in there after all the zeros. There's 125.
So I mean, it's almost close to it, probably.
Yeah, it happens to 44 people in a year, and mind you, that's not even the number of people who were shot.
Do they mention what kind of silencers used? Is it like homemade silencers? Or?
That's including everything. Homemade silencers.
So they could put a bottle on a gun.
Yeah, you can put a bottle on a gun, or as is mentioned in many articles. Matter of fact, there was a report on this in 2007, in case you were wondering, because we do lots of research here. In 2007, according to Paul A. Clark, in his report, Criminal Use of Firearm Silencers, he goes on to mention in there that it is absolutely stupid because any criminal who has half a brain can get the same effect as of using a silencer by putting a towel around a gun that they could for the silencer. And by the way, if they do use a silencer, you get 30 years. It is an automatic 30-year prison sentence. So for the 44 people who are caught and convicted using a silencer, they get a federal 30-year prison sentence. So that makes it pretty simple right there. You get 30 years if you use a silencer. One of the reasons why people don't use silencers in crimes, because no matter what the crime is, even if no one is injured, you get 30 years off the bat. And if you're such a crade, going back to the movies, you're a mobster, and you want to go out and you want to go and, I don't know, do mobster stuff. Like it's what's that movie with the mobsters? Everyone Joe
Goodfellas,
Pesci. Goodfellas. That's it. Goodfellas. So you want to be Mr. Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. Guess what? You would use a towel because you're not stupid enough to use a silencer, possibly get caught by the police, who, if you didn't buy them off because mobsters do go to jail, then you're going to get 30 years instantly for it. A separate of anything else that you did. You know, let's put some logic here. So when we hear people say, well, there's a debate, gun silencers are dangerous, we've got to, why? Because we've had a law since 1934 that has worked. I don't know. When I see that only 44 people are involved, 44 people involved, not killed, not dead, 44 people are involved in using silencers in a year in a country of 350 million people, when the chance of being caught is so ridiculously low that I could probably get better odds of running with scissors on ice, on being able to see. I'm more likely to hurt myself there than with someone involved with a silencer. I think the law is working pretty well. And if they're arguing about this, then the problem isn't the silencer. It's definitely the Huffington Post. It's definitely the people against the Second Amendment who are out there making up some silly Hollywood movie fear and fear-mongering. Because I believe that's what it is. It's fear-mongering. It's stupid. You're worried about someone running around like it's some kind of James Bond, Goodfellas movie, and that's not reality. And anyway, in Goodfellas, what, 3 people? What they kill? About 10 people? I mean, there's 350 million people in this nation. If this were a problem, we know about it. And it's not because of Virginia Beach. The problem with Virginia Beach was the guy was crazy. He had 2 guns, which weren't assault rifles, according to Huffington Post and other people who don't know anything about firearms. He didn't have any rifles. He didn't have a shotgun, which are both more, he had a handgun. He had 2 handguns. One of them had a silencer. And he knew where he was at. He was crazy. He went out with a criminal intent to kill. I don't care if you get rid of the silencers or not. That doesn't stop his intent to kill and him being crazy. But I've gone over time. This is the end of the episode. We've been here for 2 hours. I hope everyone's been enjoying it. I thank everyone who was in the chat room, including Ken, Mr. Exceptional, who was there. I want to thank everyone who's been checking it out on Facebook, on YouTube, after the fact. Please fight against shadow banning. Like, share, subscribe, spread it around to your friends. Have them do it too. We fight together. We protect our First Amendment rights. We protect all of our freedoms. I thank you. If you can, donate $1 or $2, and look to see us on Tuesday at 1 p.m. for our regular program. We're looking forward to speaking to you then. Otherwise, enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you soon. And so will Intern John.
Yep.